This
initiator flow,
conference
right?
will now be recorded.
Yeah. So in the SP initiator flow, so we have seen the service provider is redirecting the request to the identity provider, right? That means the SAML request has been redirected to the identity provider. So here, how the service provider is identifying this particular identity provider. Okay, so how it is identifying, it should have to redirect the application to this page, actually, to this identity provider actually. Okay, so that is where we are going to see the entity ID. Okay, so entity ID, it's a unique identifier where we can able to like identify each whether it is an identity provider or which is a service provider. Okay, so in while doing the SAML configuration, right? Okay, so while doing the SAML configuration, like in our ping federate side, we will be configuring the service provider entity ID. Okay, service provider entity ID, our side we will be configuring. Okay, then and then we also from our side we will be configuring the service provider entity ID. From the application side also they need to configure the SAML actually. Okay, so from their side they will be configure our side entity ID. Okay, so that means while installation we have set up our entity ID, right? So if you remember, while during the installation, after uploading the license file, we have uploaded that, sorry, we have uploaded the metadata file, right? Okay, sorry, not the metadata file. After uploading the license file, we have given the entity ID name, right? So that entity ID is our identity provider entity ID. Okay, so similarly in the application side also there will be one entity ID will be there. So here in the service provider they will be configure our entity ID here. Then from our side we will be configuring the application side entity ID in our end. So once the request came here, the service provider will check for any configuration, any identity provider entity ID has been configured or not. If it is configured, means it will redirect the SAML request to the identity provider. Then identity provider will check for the particular service provider entity ID has been configured or not. If it is configured, means it will throw the login page to the user. Okay, and then once it is authenticated, it is it is creating the SAML response and then sending the SAML response to the service provider. Okay, so this is how the configuration, the communication between the identity provider and service provider will be identified actually. Okay, so based on the entity ID only, basically which identity provider to be used, and similarly for the service provider also which service provider needs to be used for that particular configuration. So here like here we are using the ping federate, right? Ping federate will be acting as a identity provider. Okay, so that means ping federate providing the identity for the service provider. So the ping federate entity ID won't get changed. Okay, so it will be same for all the configuration you are going to do it. Okay, but the service provider will be changed for each application. So if you configuring a Microsoft Teams, means that Microsoft means that will have a separate entity ID. So if you are configuring a Cisco WebEx, means that will have a different entity, and then if you are configuring a ServiceNow application, means that will have a different entity ID. But here in the left hand side, our identity provider entity ID will be same for all the applications actually. Okay, so we will see it when we are going to do the practical session, right? You can able to understand it. Okay, so the entity ID for the ping period will be same, but the entity ID for the different applications it will be different to each other. Okay, so yeah, the next one is that metadata. Okay, so here when we are configuring the, okay, so when you start configuring the SAML connections, right? Maybe like a SAML SP connections or IDP connection, sorry, SAML configurations. Okay, before configuring any application, you need to have a discussion meeting actually. Okay, so let's say for example, okay, I am the application actually. Okay, so I have a one application. I want single sign-on to be enabled via ping federate. Okay, so what I will do, I will request a ping team. Okay, so ping team is also there actually. Okay, so the what is the ping team will do? Okay, so they will get my, they will schedule a one meeting actually. So that meeting may be like a discovery meeting or it's like an initial discussion. Okay, so that kind of a 30 minutes meeting. Okay, so in that call the ping team will have to analyze what are the applications is about. Okay, so that means if I am a ping team, okay, so one application team is requesting, hey, we are going to we are going to onboard a ping SSO for our application. So what are the steps? Okay, so we first step is that we will be starting a discussion meeting. So it's kind of a, I mean, initial discussion, or like a, I mean, we can also say discovery meeting. Okay, so in that meeting, what I will do, so I am the ping, so I will lead that call. Okay, so that means, so I will ask the questions to the application team. What are the questions? First of all, we'll ask about to like explain about the application. What is the application about? What are the features of that application? And who are the users going to access the application? Next question. So what are the user base, and then how many users they are going to use it for the application? Okay, for example, if their application is accessible by 1,000 users, means they will say it is 1,000 to 2,000, kind of a rough number. Okay, next. So once it is done, we need to ask whether if it is going for a SAML or OAuth. Okay, so we need to ask them, okay, whether you are going for a SAML configuration or OAuth configuration. So they will confirm whether they are going for a SAML or OAuth. Okay, so if they are saying SAML, okay, so if they are saying SAML means, okay, so my next question is that, okay, so please share your entity ID. Okay, please share your entity ID, or else please share your metadata. Okay, or else please share your metadata. Okay, so metadata is nothing but it will have all the information about the particular identity provider, as well as all the information about the service provider. Okay, so in our side, in our ping federate side, we will be having one metadata. Okay, so that metadata will have all the information about our identity provider. So it will have our entity ID, it will have the information about single sign-on URL, like a sign-on URL from our ping federate side. It will also have information about our single logout URL also. So these three information, and then the certificate which you are going to use it, those information will be available in the metadata. That means in our identity provider metadata. Okay, so similarly in the service provider also, they will be having one metadata. So they, in that metadata, it's a collection of information. Basically the metadata is nothing but it's the XML based format actually. So in that XML document, it will have all the information about the service provider as well as the identity provider. Okay, so in the service provider, they will also, that metadata contains their service provider entity ID, and then service provider like a ACS URL. Okay, so next one is the ACS URL. So Assistant Consumer Service URL, Assistant Consumer Service URL. That means ACS URL or redirection URL or endpoint URL. So that means, so whenever, so here in the diagram which you have seen, after authentication, okay, once everything, once the SAML response is validated, right? Once the SAML response has been validated here, okay, it is redirecting the user to the application, right? So it is redirecting the user to the application. Okay, so here that application will have some kind of a URL. Okay, for example, we are all using the Facebook application, right? So in that Facebook, you are accessing https://facebook.com/login. Okay, so that means you will be providing your email address and then the password. Okay, so after authentication, it has been redirect you to the home page, right? That means https://facebook.com/home. That kind of a page it's redirecting, right? So that URL is there, right? That URL. So that URL is known as the endpoint URL or redirection URL or Assistant Consumer Service URL. So that URL will be configured from our identity provider side actually. Okay, so basically when we are enabling the SAML configuration, right? So first of all, we will be configuring the entity ID of the service provider. I am saying in the perspective of our ping federate. Okay, so that means we will be configuring the application side entity ID, that means service provider entity ID, and then we will be configuring the Assistant Consumer Service URL that will be available in the service provider end. So that means like application side, they will share the ACS URL manually, or they will directly share the like metadata file. So in the service provider metadata, it will have that information like ACS URL, entity ID, and then the application side certificate also. Okay, so this information will be available in the metadata. Okay, so that is why this metadata is a collection of information, so that we can able to understand the whether it is identity provider or service provider. Okay, so it will be useful to configure from our end. Okay, so there are three ways in our ping federate. There are three ways we can able to configure the metadata. One is either manually, one is through the file, one is through the URL. Okay, so that means metadata can be shared as a file also, metadata can be shared as a URL also, or without the metadata. Okay, so there are three ways are there. One is without the metadata, one is metadata as a file, next one is metadata as a URL. Okay, so we can able to see metadata as a file, and then we can also see the without the metadata in our practical session. Okay, so basically the most easiest way to do it by manually only, so that means without the metadata, because sometimes, right, some other useless or like unnecessary information will be there in the metadata. So those kind of information, if you upload like a automatically, like as a file or as a URL, right, so those information automatically get into our configuration actually, but those information we don't require. Okay, why means, like in a, why I'm saying this kind of upload, I mean, for example, if you are managing for 1 year or 2 years, means after 2 years if some other new person came and see the configuration, means, okay, so you won't you won't understand it, why they are using this configuration in this particular connection, so like that they won't understand it. So those kind of a useless information we need to ignore it. Okay, so for that, the best or efficient way of doing it, okay, to manually do everything. Okay, so we will do the manual thing, and then we also like try to upload the file also, so it doesn't matter. Okay, we will do it both things. Okay, yeah. So any doubt guys till now, this entity ID as well as the metadata? Any doubts? Okay, shall I move on to the next one? Okay, yeah. So the next one is that yeah, adapters. Okay, so we are stepping into the components of the ping federate. Okay, so first of all, the first main component is that for ping federate is that adapters. Okay, so basically what is an adapter actually? Basically what that kind of adapter will do,
It
I
will
mean,
just
I'm not
connect.
saying
Connect
it will use to connect it, right?
Yes.
Like connect something. So that is why we will be using the adapter, right? With respect to of the electrical also, with respect to of the software also, the adapter will used to connect something. So similarly here, adapter will is using as a authentication connection mechanism. Okay, so that means it is in a simpler words, we will say it, this adapter, right, used to get the username and password from the user. So it's kind of a connection, right? So that means, for example, like for single sign-on, we need to get the username and the password from the user, right? Okay, for example, when you try to log in, means you will be having a page, right? For example, like if you are trying to open a facebook.com, means it will ask you to type your email address and password in a form kind of a page. Did you see that? Like, do you have any idea about that? Okay, let me give you one more example actually. So here, if I try to open the Gmail, right? Here the Gmail login, if I click on sign in, it will show some kind of a so here it is showing to type my username and password, right? So this has been like, what is the URL, who is providing this URL? The Google LDAP server. Okay, so Google is providing this login page to me. So here I am typing my username and password, right? So this is a form kind of a page, right? So here in ping parrot also, the adapter concept will do the same thing. Okay, for example, the adapter concept, right, it's doing the same kind of a flow. Okay, so that means it is used to get the username and password from the user, and then it will check it in the existing LDAP actually, whatever the LDAP which you have configured in the ping federate. Okay, so that is the usage of the adapter. Okay, so there are like different types of adapters are there. Okay, so we will see one by one. Okay, yeah, the basically the main usage of the adapter is that, so it will get the username and password from the user, and then it will check it with the LDAP. It will validate with the LDAP actually. Okay, so that is the basic flow for the adapters. Okay, so here there are like different types of adapters are there. One is Kerberos adapter. Okay, so Kerberos adapter is nothing but so do you know what is Kerberos authentication? Do you know what is Kerberos authentication?
Oh, no.
Okay, yeah. So here, Kerberos authentication is nothing but, okay, mm, like what example we can say? Okay, so if you are working in any kind of organization, right? Okay, so have you noticed? I mean, like, have you noticed you are connected to the organization LAN network? Like any kind of a company, if you go and work, means they will ask you to connect to the organization LAN network, right? Organization LAN network. So once you connected, means you can't able to access some kind of a some certain sites actually, like a torrent websites or like even our mailbox, personal mailbox, you can't able to access it. Okay, so right, because you are connected to the secure network, because you are connected to a some kind of a private network. Okay, so here this Kerberos authentication, what it will do, so how will you log into the to your company laptop or company desktop? How will you log in? Like anyone notice that behavior? Like you, how will you like log in your company laptop or company desktop?
Usually, for the login part is the single sign-on for that, and to get access to the first, what I do is I connect to the server
Mm-hmm.
and with the RSA token and the passcode, and
Yes,
it authenticates me.
exactly. Oh no, I'm just asking not to any kind of a VPN. Okay, I'm not asking for a virtual private network. So I'm asking how will you log into the organization laptop first? First of all, like when you switch on the laptop, you have to log into your profile, right? Like I mean, log into a desktop or anything, right? So how will
Yes,
you log? What is the username and password you will be using? Your organization username, like domain
yes,
slash your username and password, right?
yes,
Yes. So once you logged in, you will be connecting to the, if you are working from home, you will be connecting to the virtual private network, right? Like a VPN, using your username and password plus RSA token, right? 6-digit passcode. So you will be connected to the secure network, right?
yes,
Yes. So after that, when you try to access any kind of your company application itself, like it may be like a appraisal application, or it may be like a timesheet filling application, or it may be like a your career based application inside that organization application. Okay. So when you try to open it in the Google Chrome, have you noticed it won't ask you to type the username and password? Have you noticed that behavior? It will be a
yes,
seamless one. Yes. So that way, I mean, so in that case they are using the Kerberos authentication. Okay, so Kerberos authentication is nothing but, okay, so if you are in a trusted network, if you are in a same domain, okay, because you are logging in your laptop using the same your domain. For example, if I am a ABC Technologies employee, means I will be logging in my laptop saying as ABC slash username and password, and then I will connect to the office direct LAN network, or I will be connecting to the VPN of our office organization network. Right. When I open my timesheet application app in my Chrome browser, it won't ask me to type the username and password. Okay. Why? Means because I already connected to the domain. That means the network. I already connected to the LAN network, which is using the same ABC slash domain. Actually, that is ABC is the domain of that particular network, and I already used my domain account to log in into the laptop. So what it will do, this Kerberos authentication, if it is enabled, means, okay, it will automatically, it will predefinedly take my laptop credentials, and then it will authenticate with the Active Directory, and then once authenticated, it will be redirecting the user to type the username and sorry, redirecting the user to the application. So it will be a seamless for the user. So the user won't be getting to type the username and password. So that is known as the Kerberos authentication. Okay. So that means when once the Kerberos is enabled, okay, when you try to access it inside any kind of a trusted network, okay, first of all, one token will get triggered. Okay, so that token will be checking your username and password from your laptop, and then it will automatically take those credentials to the Active Directory. Okay, and it will check it. Once it is checking the Active Directory and everything is done, validated, means it will create a Kerberos TGT, that means token grant ticket. Okay, so that ticket only generated whether if the already username and password is validated or not. So if it is created, means it will be like a seamless for the user. Okay, so that is why this Kerberos will be considered as a seamless authentication. But there is one problem with the Kerberos is there. Okay, because this Kerberos won't be, I mean, it's only working when Active Directory is used, because this Kerberos, right, only Microsoft they have introduced, Microsoft introduced this Kerberos authentication. Okay, so Kerberos can be useful when, I mean, I mean, if it is Microsoft Active Directory is used as a LDAP. Okay, so if you are using a Ping directory, or if you are using Oracle Unified Directory, Apache Directory Server, or OpenDJ or Open LDAP, Kerberos, I mean, it's not there itself actually. Okay, the Kerberos won't be there in any other directory because that Kerberos authentication, right? Only the Microsoft has introduced that one, so that is why they didn't give that kind of technology to any other LDAPs actually. Okay, so that is one of the disadvantages in the Kerberos actually. So in ping federate, right, if you are implementing a ping federate, okay, so if you are not using the active directory means this Kerberos adapter will be useless actually. You can't able to use this Kerberos adapter until you are using the LDAP as an Microsoft active directory. Okay, so that is a disadvantage, and that is advantage also in the I mean Kerberos actually, because if you are in a part of Microsoft, right, if there is any issue with the Kerberos means you will get easy support from the Microsoft actually. Okay, so that is why they didn't give it to any other LDAPs actually, even if it's Apache directory server or Oracle directory server, like a ping directory. So any other LDAP, they didn't give this technology piece of information. Okay, so before Kerberos, if you are okay, so if you are using, if there is a team, okay, in your enterprise, right, if you are implementing a ping federate, but it's already using the Microsoft Active Directory means you need to request the Active Directory team actually. Okay, so what they will do, they need to enable the Kerberos authentication for all the users actually. Okay, so they will be creating all the users in the Microsoft Active Directory. Okay, so during creation of all the users, they have to enable the Kerberos authentication for all the users as well. Okay, so if they are not enabled, means even if you create any Kerberos adapter, it won't work for that particular user only. Okay, so there will be lot of lot of kind of a dependency will be there with the Microsoft Active Directory to enable the Kerberos adapter, because it's only dependable on the Microsoft, right? So that is why. Okay, so if you are not using if you are not using the Microsoft Active Directory, this Kerberos adapter is useless thing in the ping federate. Okay, yeah. So the next one is that HTML form adapter. Obviously HTML form adapter is nothing but this is the one. So here it's kind of a HTML form only, right? If you right click view page source means it will see some kind of a form actually. Good, right? It's kind of a HTML form written in the HTML code, right? So that is why it's like a HTML form. So it will throw the login page to the user. It will throw the login kind of HTML page to the user to get the username and password. Okay, so this HTML adapter will do that one. Okay, so if in ping federate, right, the HTML form adapter is the for example, it is the most widely used adapter actually. Mostly widely used adapter. In other words, we can say like in 100%, it's a must use adapter actually, because all the users are all the users are, it's like they will like the user interface, right? Like a user experience. So the Kerberos adapter, right? They don't know actually. Though the user won't able to like understand what is Kerberos authentication or what is Kerberos ticket. They can't able to understand those things because they are all consumers, right? Normal people. Okay, because if it is, if you are giving the page kind of authentication, showing the user like to type the username and password means it's kind of a good behavior for the user also. So they will like this kind of a content. So that is why they ping federate having they are also providing this HTML form adapter. Okay, so it's kind of a must using adapter actually. Okay, next one is HTTP basic adapter. Okay, so HTTP basic adapter is nothing but, okay, so it's kind of a like what we can say, it's a basic authentication. Have you noticed like Google Chrome will throw some kind of a pop-up actually to type the username and password? Have you noticed this behavior? Maybe like I will give some example. We will do the practical session for HTTP basic also, so you will get to know more, but I will take some whether it's having any kind of some image example like that. Yeah, so have you noticed this behavior, like this kind of a behavior, like a pop-up to type your username and password? Anyone notice this behavior?
I have with the Microsoft Teams sometimes it comes like
Mhm.
that.
Okay, okay, so it will come from the browser actually. Okay, so if you are using a Mac means it will throw like this. So if you are using a Mac means it will throw like this. If you are using a normal Chrome browser means it will throw like this. Okay. So these are the basic authentication actually. Once we configure this HTTP adapter, right, we will see more on this one. Okay. Yeah. So this one is the HTTP basic adapter. Okay. So this much is not that much useful, but you can able to like, I mean, you can get to know more on this. Okay. Next one is that IW adapter. Okay. So basically this IW adapter, I think they have removed this one. Okay. We can remove this, I mean, IW adapter actually, because it's no more more useful. I mean, they have removed it. Ping federate, right? I think before 5 to 6 months, they have given this IW adapter, but like as of now they have removed this one. It's no longer usage in the ping federate. I mean, there won't be any adapter in the ping federate like this actually. But I will tell you why they have removed it, or what is the use case of this IW adapter. Okay, so this IW adapter is an extension of the Kerberos adapter. That means it's an extension to the Kerberos authentication. Okay, so for example, like if the Kerberos authentication fails, okay, the Kerberos authentication fails means it will throw a pop-up like this actually. Okay, so when the Kerberos authentication fails, it will throw a pop-up like this actually. Okay, so that authentication is known as NTLM authentication. Okay, so that authentication is known as NTLM, network traffic LAN manager mechanism, I think. So that is the full form of that NTLM authentication. Okay, because if you are not accessing the application, it's not in a, I mean, if you are accessing the application in a public network, or if your domain credentials got wrong means, it will automatically redirected to this kind of a pop-up actually. Okay, so that is known as the NTLM. But here, why IW adapter is used here? Integrated Windows authentication adapter. Okay, so here it will use two kind of authentication. Okay, so it will be like a combination of Kerberos and NTLM. I mean, normally the Kerberos adapter will have the Kerberos authentication as well as the NTLM authentication also. But why IWA? It's an extension of the Kerberos adapter. So Kerberos adapter only works in single domain. Okay, so for example, if I am a part of ABC Technologies means the Kerberos will be a seamless for me actually. Okay, but if the same organization have two domains, for example, ABC1. Okay, for example, ABC and then ABC1. Okay, so if I try to access the application from the network ABC1 means my Kerberos adapter will fail, because my Kerberos adapter has been configured for abc.com only, not for a ABC1. So in that case means Kerberos will get failed. It will throw a pop-up to me to type the username and password manually, like a NTLM authentication. Okay, but here in this IW, right, we can able to do multiple domains also. That means we can add multiple domains, and then we can able to get the seamless authentication to works for multiple like a domains also. That means if there is a two domains, ABC and ABC1 means, if I logged in with my credential, I mean, if I logged in with to the domain as ABC and try to access the application which is having the domain ABC1, so it will be seamless for me also. Okay, but why they have removed this kind of I mean, like a useful feature means, okay, so there are like lot of bugs was there actually. Even I noticed that kind of a bug actually. Okay, so what are the bugs means? Okay, so it is a seamless for one browser actually. Like if you are trying to access the Chrome browser means it is a seamless, and even if you open another tab and if you try to access the same application itself, it is throwing the pop-up actually. It's not taking as a seamless, it is throwing the pop-up. So that is why they can't able to fix these kind of bugs actually. So that is why they have directly removed the IW adapter itself, and asked all the organization to go with the Kerberos adapter, and please go with, they are requested all of them to go with a single kind of a domain actually. Okay, so that is the fix they have given for this IWA actually. But nowadays that working capability and everything, they have removed it actually. Yeah, next one is the open token adapter. Okay, so here this open token adapter, right? If for example, if the application team does not want the login page to be thrown by the ping federate, okay, if the application team, so here if you are using a HTML form adapter, or if you are using a Kerberos adapter, or if you are using a IWA, everything if you are using, right, okay, everything has been, the authentication will be done in the ping federate side. Okay, that authentication or the login page, the username and password has been get from the ping federate only, not by the application team. Okay, for example, now if the in any exceptional cases, I mean it will be like one, or maybe it won't be there one. One itself it's a exceptional one actually, so it won't be there normally. Okay, so if that case is coming, but that case also working as a SAML configuration means, okay, so if the application team does not want to throw the login page for the user means, we can go with the open token adapter. Okay, so what open token adapter will do? Okay, for example, when you configure it, you will be providing the open token as a like a, you have to give the one shared secret key. Okay, shared secret key is nothing but you will be creating that secret key and put it in the open token adapter and export that agent file. One agent file will get downloaded. Okay, so that agent file should have to configure in the application side also. That means in the application side they have to configure it. Okay, so once configured, okay, there will be shared secret key will be there. So once the username and password they are typed by the user in the application side, okay, so based on the shared secret key, the user will get authenticated. They won't check the username and password. They won't check the username and password for the user. They will check only the shared secret key, whether it has been configured properly or not. Okay, if the shared secret key is not configured or is not matched means, the user, even though if the user typed the correct credentials, that it will get failed. Okay, but the what is the disadvantages here in this adapter means, even though the user is typed the wrong credentials, it will get authenticated for the user actually. So that is the kind of like, I mean it's kind of a disadvantage for this user for this, but everything has been done by the application side actually. Okay, application will take care of those kind of a risk, and then they, if they ask means you can provide this one, but there is another way of doing it actually. Okay, so you can suggest that one actually. Okay, I will show you when we are doing the OAuth configuration. Okay, so I mean you can, like, most probably it is not recommended to use it this open token adapter, but if that kind of a case is coming means, I can show you how to handle with the OAuth actually. Okay, so it's easy to handle with the OAuth, but it's also not secured actually in OAuth also. Like, so whenever if the application team is asking to, like, whether we will handle the login pages means, don't, I mean like don't encourage them to use the own login page actually. Just convince them to use our login pages, to use our ping federate login page. So it's a most secured way, and then it's a most recommended way also doing the single sign on. Okay, okay, yes. So till now, like, have, okay, next adapter is that ping id and then the duo adapter, ping id or duo adapter. So it will be considered as a MFA adapter. So I think Manish, you have mentioned that RSA token, right? RSA token. So why you are providing the RSA token? I mean you have to like you have to like, put the 6-digit passcode which is available in that RSA token, right? So that 6-digit passcode will be like, it will be like update, frequently updated for every 30 seconds, right? So that is
Yes.
kind of a second factor authentication. So once you type the username and password, you have to type this 6-digit passcode. So why it is asking? For a security purposes actually. So it's just extra layer of a security. Okay, so that is known as the multi-factor authentication. So here in ping federate, right, there are two kinds of MFA will be supported. One is duo, one is ping id. Okay, so Cisco Duo is provided by the Cisco organization. Ping ID is direct, direct MFA method from the ping itself actually. Okay, yeah, we will see this one in a live actually. Okay, yeah, practical session. We will see the Duo practical session. Okay, yeah, because it's kind of a, have you noticed that a 6-digit passcode you will be receiving from the mobile actually? Have you
Yes.
noticed that one? So I mean, well, if you are, we are all, we are all using our net banking sites, right? Net banking sites which is used to like transact amount, right? So when you are trying to transact any kind of amount, right? For example, if you are transacting amount to me, so for that means you will be choosing my account and then like so and so amount, and then send request, right? So in that one, you will be typing your 4-digit PIN, or sometimes it will send a OTP to your mobile, right? So that is known as the multi-factor authentication. So the same procedure will come into the picture, but there are like lot of advanced methods are there. I mean, like OTP is kind of a old method nowadays. Okay, OTP is considered as a old method, and then even that RSA token you are using, right? That is also like a old one. Okay, so there are like lot of software kind of a token has been came. We will see those kind of things actually. Okay, yeah. So any doubts till now, like entity ID, metadata, ACS URL, and then the adapters? Okay, yeah. So the next topic, okay, just give me a minute. So the next topic is that selectors. Okay, so selectors is nothing but okay, so if you are using, for example, like one application is asking, okay, hey, please send me the HTML adapter as well as the HTTP basic adapter also. Okay, please, I want HTML for some users, I want HTTP basic for some users. Okay, so how can we like, I mean, differentiate them? Okay, so here based on some conditions, we will choose the adapters actually. Okay, so selectors is a component in Ping Federate which is used to, based on some kind of a condition, we can able to choose which adapter to be triggered for a particular connection. Okay, for example, like if you are having a two or more adapters configured for a single connection means, okay, so in order to choose automatically, in order to choose any one of the adapter from that, any one of the three adapters from that particular configuration, okay, in order to choose that adapter automatically, we will be using the component known as selectors. Okay, so selectors basically used to select any one of the adapters automatically, okay, based on some kind of a condition. Okay, so that is a selectors. So here we will be having nearly 8 selectors actually. Okay, so without explaining in the theoretical part, I will directly show you in the practical session. We will see one by one, because there will be like selectors for SAML, there is 3 selectors are there. For OAuth, 3 separate selectors are there, and then for universal there are 2 selectors are there. So we need to like, I need to explain it practically so that you can able to like understand easily. So when we are going to do the practical, we will see that one. Okay, yeah. So the next one is that policies. So here policies is nothing but, okay, whatever you are choosing, whatever the selectors or adapters you are configuring, right? So here policies is basically a if else condition. Okay, so do you know what is if else condition? Like in Java language, we are having a if else condition, right? So what is that if else condition will do
So
in
based
Java?
on that condition, if you want to go ahead and do some operations based on that condition, if not, just go to another condition and do it. So just selecting
Yes, yes, yes.
what you want to do
Okay,
with that.
okay, exactly. So if one condition will be there, for that condition one result will be there, else another result will be there, right? So that is a basically a if else one, right? If one condition will be there, for that condition there will be one kind of a result will come. Okay, and then else or else another condition, another result will come for a different kind of a condition. So basically the policies, right, it will do the if else condition only. Okay, so if one selector condition is there means it will choose one adapter, or else it will choose another adapter. Okay, for example, in selector you will be giving the condition. Okay, so based on that condition, if that condition is satisfied, one adapter will trigger, or else it will trigger another adapter. Okay, so similarly we can also enable the if else condition also. Okay, in that policies, right, we can also do the nested if else condition. Nested, what is a nested if one condition is there, inside that if there will be one more if will be there, and for that if there is one else will be there, and then there will be main else, main else will be there for the first if, right? So that is known as the nested if else condition. So the policies will support the if else condition also, as well as the nested if else condition also. Okay, yeah. So it's a sequential manner. Whenever you are configuring the SAML, right? So if that SAML having more than one adapter, it will automatically comes to the policy only. It will automatically comes to the policy, and then it will check the first policy. If the first policy is satisfied means the first policy will trigger, or else it will go to the second, and then it will go to the third, and then it will go to the fourth, like that. Okay, whenever which policy is satisfied, that kind of a policy will trigger, but it will go in a sequential manner, not as a like a randomly. Okay, it is go for start from the first, and then it will go one by one actually. Okay, we will see that we will create multiple policies actually when we are doing the practical. Okay, yeah. So next one is that we will see the authentication policy content directly in the practical session. Okay, yeah. The next one is the data stores. So data stores is nothing but, okay, it is used to connect your LDAP and then the ping federate. Okay, so the data stores is used to connect the LDAP which you have installed, right? The OpenDJ LDAP and then the ping federate which you have installed. Okay, So we need to make a communication, right, so that you can able to authenticate the users. You understand my point, right? We need to authenticate the users, right? Okay, so for that, ping federate has to connect to the data store. Connect to the LDAP which you have installed. So how can we enable that communication? Based on the data stores, we can able to enable the communication. Okay, so the first thing in our practical session will be starting from the data stores only. Okay, yeah. So the next topic is that PCB. Okay, so don't worry, guys. I mean, the today's
But
class will be like a
I have a
theory
question.
session only. Yes, yes, sir.
So, what's the difference between data stores and adapters?
So data stores is nothing but it will make a communication. Okay, for adapters, it will just get the username and password. Okay, it will get the username and password from the user, and it will validate in the data store actually. Okay, so in that particular data store to be created means we need to have the LDAP to be configured in a ping federate. Okay, so this data stores, right, it will use to create a communication. Okay, it will use to create a communication between the ping federate and the LDAP which you have installed. Okay, so basically it will use to create a data store. Okay, for a component, like a component. Okay, so we will be giving our host name and then like a admin account which you have used, right? So based on the admin account, so the data store can able to communicate it. So the adapters which you have configured, right, it will get the username and password, and automatically it will go and check in the data store which you have configured. Okay, so that means in the data store we have enabled the communication. Okay, so let me show you that one. So both of them is a different kind of a topic. Don't get confused. Actually, adapters is an authentication mechanism. Okay, but that data store is not an authentication mechanism. So it's a, if you go to the system, so here data stores. So we'll try to get a communication actually. So here you will be typing the date LDAP actually. Okay, just give the some name whatever you want. Okay, and then type as LDAP. So here ping support LDAP as well as the JDBC. Okay, ping supports LDAP or JDBC data store. I mean the database also. Okay, so here we are going to use the LDAP. Click on next. Okay, so here the host name will be the, what is the host name which I have been configured. I think it's in system above. It, yeah, I think this is the host name of my LDAP. Okay, so give that host name, click on add, and then so this LDAP type, it's not an active directory. Okay, so it's not an active directory, it's not an Oracle directory server, it's not an Oracle unified directory or ping directory, it's a generic directory. Okay, it's a generic, it's a like a common one. Okay, so here user DN, what is a user DN? It's a root user which we have configured, right? You need to give that root account as well as the password. Okay, directory manager, and then the password which I have given for that particular root account. So once it is done, test this connection. Once everything is done, test this connection. So here it has been showing as a connectivity test was successful. That means this ping federate has a successful connection with the LDAP which you have installed. Okay, so this is the data store actually. This is the data store. Okay, so when adapter is triggered, right, it will automatically get the username and password from that adapter, and then it will go and check here in this data store. It will go and check here in this data store with this username and password. Okay, with this admin account, so it will have the access to the data store. Then whether that username and password is there in our database, I mean in that LDAP or not, if it is there means the authentication will get successful actually. Okay, so that is the concept. Okay, adapter, it will just do the authentication, it will get the username and password, and then it will move out to the data store. Okay, so data store, it's used to connect the LDAP which you have installed, and then the ping federate. Okay, so it is used for this purposes. Okay, so both of them is a different kind of a components. Okay, yeah. Any doubts?
No.
Okay, yeah. So the next one is that password credential validators. Okay, so this password credential validator, obviously, like I mean, PCV, like obviously in that name itself, you might get to know actually what is PCV, password credential validator. So password credential validator is nothing but, okay, like it is used to in the adapter, right? Certain adapters it can't able to validate the credentials. I mean, it will get the username and password and it will go and check in the data store. But in the certain adapters, right, it can't able to go and check in that particular data store actually. For example, if you take a HTML form or HTTP basic adapter, right, both of the adapter requires additional I mean, it will have a dependency with the PCV actually, okay, because we can't able to specify the direct data store in the adapter itself. Okay, even if you take a Kerberos adapter or if you take a IW adapter, right, we can able to provide the data store directly. But in this HTML form or HTTP adapter, right, we can't able to provide that information in the direct adapter. So in that direct adapter, we will be providing the PCV information. Okay, so what PCV will do? It will go and check for a particular adapter, for the HTML adapter and HTTP basic adapter. The PCV will do the validation of a particular username and password. Okay, the in HTML adapter, okay, the username and password, it will get the username and password from the user, okay, and send it to the PCV. The PCV will go and check in the LDAP actually. Okay, it will go and check in the data store which you have configured. Okay, so basically half of the work for our HTML adapter and HTTP basic adapter will do by the PC only. That means HTML adapter will get the username and password from the user and it will send to the PCV. The PCV will do the validation actually. Okay, everything will be interconnected actually. When you are doing the practical, right, you can able to understand it. So everything will be pre-connected. In PCV, you will be providing the data store. In the data store, we have configured the LDAP, right? So you can understand, you will see the flow actually in the data store. We have configured we have enabled the communication between the ping federate and then the LDAP. Okay, in PCV you will be giving that particular data store. Then in HTML adapter you will be giving that PCV, so that in HTML adapter it will get the username and password from the user and then it will pass the username and password to the PCV. The PCV will validate the credentials in the LDAP actually. Okay, so it's kind of a flow of chain of work actually. Okay, any doubt guys, this PCV? Okay, so the next, okay, the last theoretical topic or maybe like a last component which are available in the ping federate, that is known as the certificate signing and certificate encryption. So this is the last topic for the theoretical. So from tomorrow everything will be like, I mean, I think for nearly 5 to 6 days it will be like a direct practical session only. The theoretical won't come year after. Okay, so don't get worried. So tomorrow tomorrow it will be like a full and full practical only. Okay, no theoretical. Okay, yeah. So certificate signing and certificate encryption is that. So here, as I already mentioned, right, while doing the SAML communication or enabling the federation trust between the identity provider and service provider, so based on the certificate, it will get validated, right? So that is the why we are using the certificate here. So do you know, like, do you have you noticed if you receive some kind of a mail from some persons, some kind of a email has been signed by some kind of a certificate actually. Okay, normal signature without the normal, okay, why do we give the normal signature in our any kind of like checkbook or any kind of like when we are signing our name, right? Why do they require that one, our signature? Like why do they require it? Like if you want to get a loan means we need to put our signature. So similarly, like if you want to purchase a car or if you want to purchase a bike means you have to provide your signature. So similarly, if you want to write a checkbook or means you need to provide your signature. So similarly, while sending an email, right, you are providing your signature in that thanks and regards, right? So why do we need this? Anyways, in purchasing a car we are going to pay our amount. So but even though we are paying our amount, right, why do they require that one? Like any idea?
Maybe some unique thing like.
It's a unique thing, but you are proving yourself, I mean you are proving some other person that this amount is coming from a trustable person. Okay, so I am purchasing this car as a trustable for me only, not for some other use or not for some other anything. I'm not going to misuse this car. So that is why you are providing a signature there. So similarly for a checkbook, right, you are providing authorizing yourself that you can able to take my amount in that from my account itself. Okay, so that is kind of authorization signature. In email, you are providing a signature even though it is coming from your mail account, but you are providing that it is coming from my email address only. It is, I mean, it has been sent by my, I mean, like it has been sent by me only, not by someone else actually. Okay, so you are proving some other person that it is coming from, like that is, I am the like trustable person, I am the person who is just sending the amount, or which is sending any kind of a mails actually. Okay, so similarly for SAML response you are sending, right? So we are sending the SAML response from the identity provider. So similarly, the ping federate or identity provider will use one certificate actually. Okay, so that means here the SAML response will be signed by ping federate by using one kind of a certificate. Okay, so that means the SAML response which has been sent by the identity provider, which has been sent by the identity provider, will use one certificate to sign the response, not encrypted or not, like it is not encrypted or it is not protecting or anything. It's just signing the SAML response. That means it is telling the service provider that this SAML response is has been created by trustable identity provider only. Trustable identity provider. Okay, so you can able to trust this SAML response and give the access to the user. Okay, so that is known as that kind of a certificate we are using, right? So that certificate is known as the signing certificate or certificate signing actually. Just you are informing the service provider that this SAML response has been coming from a particular or trustable identity provider only. Okay, now the certificate encryption. So encryption certificate is a different one actually. Okay, encrypting the SAML response, the SAML response you are sending, right? Signing certificate is just signing the response, but the certificate encryption, right, encrypting the content of the SAML response actually. Okay, so that is the difference between the signing certificate and the encryption certificate. In the interview they may ask what is the difference between the signing and certificate encryption. You can say certificate signing is nothing but just signing the SAML response, that telling the service provider that this SAML response has been generated by the trustable identity provider only. Again, certificate encryption is nothing but it is encrypting the content of the SAML response. Okay, so for to make more secure actually, that's all. Okay, any doubt guys till now? Any doubts in this today, like basic components of the ping federate, like adapters or selectors, or I mean, I just gave a brief intro about our basic components. So tomorrow when you are going to do the direct like a ping federate practical session, right, you can able to understand it clearly. Okay, these kind of adapters, PCVs, data stores, and then certificate signing and certificate encryption, even the policies, selectors, everything, entity ID, metadata, SS URL. Okay, so even the SAML workflow, right? SP initiated SSO and then the IDP initiated SSO. You can able to understand it clearly when you are going to do the practical session. Okay. Yeah. So any doubt guys, or else we can wind up today's call actually, and tomorrow we'll start with the SAML configurations. Okay. We'll start with configuring the basic components and then we'll start with the SAML configurations, IDP initiated SSO. Okay. Yeah.